Thank you very much. All right, we're deep into lunch. My promise to you is this. I will not go over my 20-minute allocation of time today, and I will save time for question and answer. But I promise you this as well, that by the time I'm done with this presentation, you guys will be better at writing ads, better at writing messages, better at writing tweets, whatever it is you like to do. So let's dive right in and do that. I'm going to be talking about optimizing your message, getting past the bouncers in your brain. And by the time I'm done, you should understand why I'm wearing this ridiculous lab coat. I'm not going to tell you right now. First of all, how many of you guys have heard this? 93% of all communication is nonverbal. Raise your hand if you've heard this. All right, keep your hand up if you believe it. It all went down. All right, smarter. People are trying to get this. The truth of the matter is that this is not exactly, I think in London terms, you would say bollocks. Is that the right word? This is not exactly true. In fact, I have totally forgotten how to pronounce his last name. But his, Morabian, thank you very much. Albert Morabian was studying inconsistent communications. So this only works, 93% of communication is nonverbal, when the message doesn't match the words. So what is it about inconsistency that's so important? I mean, we look at this, the word clearly says bottles, but if we look closely, we're not going to fit our empty bottle into this slot. We're going to discount the word very quickly. And not only that, this is so interesting to our brains that we chuckled about it. So what is it about inconsistency that makes us pay more attention? This is what I want to talk about because this is a very interesting aspect of these bouncers in our brains. So I'm going to tell you who they are, and I'm going to give you some tips on what to do about these bouncers. This is a little bit about me. I don't know how you take a computer scientist that went into technical sales and did corporate marketing and is an entrepreneur. You can't put that together without becoming, obviously, a conversion scientist. My company does website optimization. I'm an international speaker. I have this book. And by the way, if you ask good questions, I am giving away copies of my book for good questions at the end of this so that my last 5 minutes isn't wind blowing and crickets chirping. And if you haven't guessed, I am a labwear fashion model. All right, so how come we can't just state the facts and have people get what we're talking about? Why? I want to introduce you to the bouncers in your brain. All right, I want everybody to hold up your left hand, stick your finger in the air. Can you all do this for me? All right, now bend at the elbow and point your finger just in front of your left ear. You're now pointing at Broca's area, named for Pierre-Paul Broca. It is located in the triangular portion of the temporal frontal gyrus. Raise your hand in the air. Bend at the elbow. Point to just behind your ear. You are now pointing at Wernicke's area. Carl Wernicke was the definer of this area. This is located in the posterior section of the superior temporal gyrus. Broca's area, the job of Broca's area is to take verbs and turn them into images that are cast onto what neuroscientists call the visual spatial sketch pad in our minds. This is working memory, short-term memory, but we must have this in order to take action. I'm going to show you why physiologically. Wernicke's area is, the job of Wernicke's area is to take the sounds that we call nouns and attach them to the mental images that they represent. So Broca's area is taking action. Wernicke's area is attaching nouns to our memories, to our emotions, to the stories that we've stored. Now, they're not just decoders of words. I've got a couple of brain scans here. Somebody who is looking at words passively, you're going to see this kind of activity. This is the back of the brain that's lit up here like a Christmas tree. This is the visual cortex. So they could be looking at words, they could be looking at images. However, when they're generating words or reading words, comprehending words, you can very clearly see Broca's area and Wernicke's area light up. This means something very different is going on, something more than visual. And this is what should be interesting to us as marketers and communicators. Broca's area takes information from Wernicke's area and stands guard at the motor cortex. The motor cortex is where we take action. The premotor cortex is where we generate speech. So as ideas actually get into our minds, Broca's area has the capability of casting those onto the visual spatial sketch pad and having those acted upon by our minds. It's kind of like this. Broca's area is motor cortex is hiding behind Broca's area. So we've got to get past Broca. So how do we surprise Broca? What's the sorts of things that make Broca say, oh, well, something here? Broca really evolved, we think, because back on the Serengeti when we had young minds, we had to know the difference between the sound of grass blowing in the wind and the sound of grass being stomped on by a tiger. One of those is interesting, one of those is potentially deadly. Broca needs to be able to tell the difference between that, and we continue to have that capability. So to get past Broca, we need to find the unexpected, the unbelievable, or the just plain wrong. These are the messages that make Broca say, whoa, wait a minute, I think maybe we need to let this in and start doing some processing on this message. Kahneman, in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, called this uncertainty. Uncertainty is when our fast brain punts and says, whoop, I can't do this automatically, punts it up to the slow brain for a little bit more calculation, analysis, and all of the things that the slow part of our brain, or the system 2, is capable of doing. So here's a real quick example. This is a test that Marketing Experiments did that's fun. Free marketing research. We hold all the secrets to internet marketing by now. This is a paid search ad. They tested this one against free marketing research. Lousy marketing ideas don't come to our site. That's kind of uncertain. Bulldog info and resources. Site about family dog. Pictures and links are here. Was tested against Bulldog info and resources. Vaguely useful pet site. Affiliate links and pictures. And guess what won on the click count? These surprising ones won. Now, they probably didn't generate a lot of purchases, but clearly Broca was interrupted here. This is a test that we did. This is for a company that runs addiction centers, addiction treatment centers. People coming to this website can fill out a form or call the company and inquire about having themselves or a loved one spend time treating a variety of addictions. This is the form that is filled out. And what we want to do is generate more calls. So for these guys, the calls are 5 to 7 times more valuable than a form fill. So we would like to have fewer form fills and more phone calls. Our first thought in increasing number of phone calls would be just to get rid of this. That should work. All they got is a phone number. It's the only thing they can do, right? We also thought that if we could change the headline, the call to action on this form, we might be able to get more people to call. So we changed it from this, get help now, call us toll free, or simply fill out this form. And this is bad language, by the way, simply fill out. Oh, it's simple to fill out the form. Maybe we'll do that. So we decided to change it. Get help by calling our rehab helpline. Now this is the call to action above a form. Remember, it's better if you call us and take real action right now. However, if something is truly preventing you from calling, then fill out this form and we'll get back to you. So we're definitely priming them to call. And the third one was, what if we took some of these oppressive, we asked for a lot of information, some difficult fields to fill out. What if we took all of those out and used a short form with this more aggressive call to action on it? So we ran our test, and here's what we found out. Our long form with the aggressive copy did a 16% increase in phone calls. This is good. 16% increase in phone calls is good for this client. The short form saw a reduction in clicker working, a reduction in phone calls of 67%. This was not good. And as you might guess, the number of people that completed this form went through the roof. So we got a whole lot more of what was less profitable. And what we think happened here is that this long, intimidating form has some places that introduce uncertainty. So we're asking for, does the addict want help? What are the drugs of choice? What legal issues are attached? Are they in jail right now? And what payment options? These create that uncertainty that keeps Broca from going, oh, I can just fill this out and not think about it. Or the system 1, if you use Kahneman's terminology, it creates that barrier. And so I have to look for an alternative. I have to look for the alternative to take real action. And incidentally, if you want to know if, in fact, this form played a role, we did test no form at all. This is a page that just had the phone number on it. And calls dropped 56% over that control. So taking the form off made fewer people call. The form was playing a role here. Wernicke is playing with our nouns, attaching spoken or read words to things in our memories, things we associate with. Relevance, emotion, storytelling. We've talked about those things already today. These are the things that wind up Wernicke. Kahneman would call this anchoring. So if we can plant something in our message that has relevance to our target audience history, Wernicke is going to go and grab that and say, oh, there's a match here. This is important. So back to the treatment centers. Which of these headlines do you think generated the most phone calls again? Our control is we can help, call. Speak with a compassionate rehab specialist, call. Ready to start healing, call. And ready to stop lying, if so, we can help, call. Our control obviously didn't have an increase or decrease. Speak with a compassionate rehab specialist. 32% increase in calls. Yay, we're heroes. We are heroes. This is an amazing discovery. Ready to start healing? Drop of 18% in phone calls. And ready to stop lying? 43% increase. This is like wow stuff for us. And what we believe happened here is that there's nothing really that Wernicke can jump on here with we can help and ready to start healing. You know, we don't have those visceral memories that we can tap into of healing. I mean, we can see getting over a cold, maybe our arm in a cast, that kind of healing. Not really relevant to somebody who is researching addiction treatment solutions. So we think that speak with a compassionate rehab specialist. We know somebody who's been compassionate to us. Hopefully it was our mom, our first really compassionate person. And stop lying. Addicts and the family members, the loved ones of addicts, lying is the only way the addiction can continue. It's that darkness. So they are going to relate to this and have some memory of either lying to themselves or as an addict, lying to their family. So these are Wernicke wakers. And in as simple a message as changing a headline, you can kind of see the power of that. Here's a little test just to provide some more data. SAP America wanted to test this ad here. So access valuable business intelligence briefs, demos, webcasts, and white papers. Yes, we know what they are, but there's something visceral and relevant missing from that. But if you're a guy like me wearing a lab coat, advanced analytics, dashboards, and visualization, I am just beside myself with excitement to get this. And these are the top 5 solution briefs. That might be something that makes Broca go, wait a minute, these are the top 5? Okay. And of course, this generated 24% more leads. More addiction center stuff, I apologize for, but there's just so many great learnings here. A place of new beginnings, or addiction torments addicts and their loved ones. This was 184%. This is a complete story in 7 words. You got the good guy, the addiction. The addicts and their loved ones. You got the bad guy, the addiction, the conflict, the tormenting. All you need is the conclusion, and you'll get that if you keep reading, right? I think that's why that one works so well. So if we look at Kahneman heuristics, and Sarah Walker earlier talked about the availability heuristic. Basically, the idea is that if it's in my memory, if I recalled it from my memory, it must be important. So that's why it's so powerful to anchor something. And of course, the heuristic, the uncertainty heuristic, Broca's job is to filter out the predictable so that it can spend time on the unpredictable. And creating uncertainty is certainly one way of doing this. So I think we have some physiological locations for these heuristic concepts. So let's talk about availability and relevance. So let's drill down a little bit more on Wernicke because I think it's very easy for us to be creative and interesting and wake up Broca. At least I hope so. Everybody on the web hopes so, trust me. But it's a little bit harder to understand that relevance because it requires you that you know something of your audience and that you have the experience to use writing or images or video to tap into that. But here are a few ideas. So experiential anchors. If you know something about your audience like this is actually a print ad for Patek Philippe watches. These, I understand, are very expensive. I don't own one. But if you think about your audience, somebody who's going to own a really expensive watch is going to be somebody who's in their prime earning years and probably has children about this age. So this is a great primer for a message that says you never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely take care of it for the next generation. triggers as anchors. So this is really a valuable one. What is it that made them visit your website at this time in their lives? Let's talk about the lady whose sink is leaking and it's ruining her wood floors. And she lives in Austin. Emergency plumber Austin. I did this search, and I did find some ads that wanted this emergency business. They wanted it, so they advertised specifically for it. First one I went to was this. Well, I don't see anything about emergency. I don't know if they can come out quickly. In fact, I don't even know if these guys are going to answer the phone. As opposed to this one. There we go. No extra charge, weekends, holidays, and nights. Austin Plumbers, emergency 24 hours. And the phone number is there. So they're definitely hitting on these triggers, the reason that I came, and understanding that. Geographic anchors. This is in Australia, this is a company that sells experiential gifts. You can fly in an airplane, in a helicopter, you can drive a race car, you can skydive, all sorts of things. And they said, well, one of the first questions might be, where am I? So where am I? When I see this, I see where I'm from in Australia. And that turns out to be the first question and increased their inquiries almost 28%. I mean, this is an important shape to me. I have all kinds. Veronica's is like going crazy here. He's like, oh, you can attach all sorts of things to that. This is the shape of Texas, by the way, where I'm from. Transactional or relational anchors. So what do we show them to anchor them to their buying habits? Transactional buyers, their greatest fear in the world is paying 1 quid too much. Did I use quid right there? One penny too much, really. The relational buyer's greatest fear is buying the wrong thing, and they will pay extra for expertise. So here is a company that sells wines online. And this ad is leading with an anchor for a transactional. Save $100. Oh, I'm going to save money. I can look further. As opposed to a relational anchor that begins, enjoy 12 world-class reds. So the message doesn't change at all, or the value doesn't change. It's just what we primed them with changed. And this did generate significantly more leads for this. So the wine crowd is probably more relational, and that shouldn't surprise anybody. This is outside my hotel. This is up here in Camden Lock. I thought this was a great example. Instead of for lease or space available, they said, an opportunity to start a new business for anyone interested in workshop studios, arts and crafts, designer studios, media and music, vintage clothing, handmade products, antiques, entrepreneurial activity. We'll leave that one. So they decided not to just hang out a shingle that says for lease, we have open space. They decided to excite Broke a little bit and give Vernica something. You've got to be on this list somewhere. If you don't run a workshop or designer studio or vintage clothing, you've been in one. And so there's some sort of relationship. So I would suspect, I haven't actually contacted the owner to see how well this is working for them, but I would suspect this would work quite well. So bouncers, what bouncers? We got those guys. We know who they are. We got some techniques for getting past them. I say we're good. And incidentally, the lab coat, when I first walked out, how many of you guys went, oh, God, you're kidding, right? Broca went, wait a minute, I got to pay attention to this. But I know that Vernica also associated some things with his lab coat. Doctors are trustworthy and smart and brilliant. Not only did your perception of my intelligence go up, thank God, there's actually a study that said that my perception of my intelligence went up when I put this on. So it worked for everybody. And I hope that we've made the points we were hoping to. I am taking questions. Looks like we still have time for questions. I'm not over my time, and I'm giving away books for anybody who asks good questions.
Hi, my name's Farhan Rahman. I work with Conscious Comms as a social media strategist. I'm curious, with everything that you've talked about, have you done any research around targeting people based on their modality of preference? So if they're more a visual or auditory or kinesthetic type person, and looking at how that behavior impacts their responsiveness?
No, having done research, I can't say that we've done research. What we do is we use a persona process often to understand who we're marketing to. So, like I said, with the challenge with Vernica is that we need to understand what kind of memories are up there that we can attach our messages to. And so when you do personas, you can find somebody, for instance, who is spontaneous. So they're going to make decisions very quickly and very emotionally. They're not going to watch a 2-minute video. So you're preparing something different for them. Somebody who's methodical might watch video. So we've tested media based on knowing that there are segments of the audience that want it. But segmentation, honestly, is so sliced up that it's difficult to do. It's difficult. So I don't have any firm answers for you. Nonetheless, you've got to know your audience. So does that answer your question? I don't know if that was helpful at all.
Yeah. Just in terms of like from an NLP perspective, where you look at people respond to kind of a buying decision based on if you trigger their stimulus based on the way in which they make a buying decision.
Mm-hmm.
So like some people will decide if they're first visually stimulated and then given a kinesthetic or a auditory response.
No, some sort of a mirroring sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, honestly, we don't get quite that sophisticated. So, and we don't want to manipulate people. We want to meet them where they are. So doing this is also a process of understanding who we don't want to market to, because if we're going to tap Wernicke for certain memories, we have to be comfortable with the people that don't have those memories not being interested. And that's actually the hardest decision in marketing, in my opinion. Thank you very much. Who else?
Who's next?
Hello, I'm Joe Turnbull. I'm blogging for Stata Digital. I have a question about the things that you changed. It was the titles of the
headlines, the page headlines? Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then you also saw increasing conversion rate or click-through rate. Did you actually change anything else, like images, or did things like the length of the text, like within the body, actually make?
We have done those tests, but we would not have done those in the same test that we did with the. So we changed just the headlines, and the key to testing is if you want to understand what's making the difference, you can only change one thing at a time. But we have. You know, in this case, we have played with the location of the calls to action, length of the page, and copy. We've tested that in a number of other areas. Are you looking for a recommendation as to?
Yeah, so I was just thinking, so you did, if you changed the title, sort of, how long did you have that for, and how did you manage to convince the client to obviously to change that?
The way we managed to convince the client to change that is did a good job on some more conservative ones, and
so
they
small test first.
Well, I mean, we had been working with them for almost a year at that point, so we had enough trust with them and had grown their business enough that they would let us do something like lying. And you know, it's if that's what you're talking about, being able to put that in there. So you know, you don't want to test anything that you're not ready to go ahead and roll out to the public. So those corner cases or those end cases that really wake Broca up may not, from an image or brand standpoint, be viable. In this case, they were, though.
Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Natalie. I work for a large telco. You talked about conversion, thank you, on websites. What converts on mobile?
What converts on mobile? The same thing, only different. So think about this. We talked about one of the triggers, one of the great anchors is trigger. And on mobile, we have this trigger that we've never had before, where you are right now. So this becomes a really interesting trigger. I guess after a while we get used to it, but when you open an app and get an ad or are presented with information that is peculiarly specific or creepily knowledgeable of where you are, Broca's like, "Bah, we got to look at this." That may fade after time, but I mean, being helpful is a great way to wake up both Broca and Wernicke. So on a mobile standpoint, if you can key on that and provide messages or information through an app that way, that is awesome. Provide a coupon for somebody who's standing outside the door of a shop or something like that. Beyond that, there are some, there's some interesting things, that on a web page, above the fold is important. You want messages to be above the fold because that's the first thing people say. There is now a below the fold on mobiles because people will scroll and scroll and scroll and then they hit the bottom, and that's what they see is going to get a higher level of attention. So you've got the above the fold and the below the fold. That's a unique thing that we're now just finding out by testing some of this stuff. But mobile is a different animal, and honestly, my company is still getting up the learning curve by doing these tests, which is how we learn on mobile, so I wish I had something more specific for you.
Thank you so much, Brian, for getting on a plane and coming out here. Certainly, if I was in Austin, it would take an awful lot to get me out of there. So thank you for coming and sharing.
Oh, it didn't take me any at all. Look at this, guys. Thank you.